use my language, going through stuff. It's not fun sometimes, right? And then, where did all this come from? Just keep boxes back in the shelves and in the top, nooks and crannies in the attics, and oh my gosh, I call some of the houses I work in the clown car, the clown house. Like, how did all of this stuff fit in your house? And I was just telling these nice folks in front, I come to this business honestly. He said, I would love to see your home. It's not perfect, but it works for me. And that's what we want. I'm not, if you look at Home Edit, there's organizing things up there and everything's perfect. Well, who lives in those houses? I want to know. I feel uncomfortable in perfectly manicured houses. No, we got our stuff because we like stuff. We like the things that mean something to us, right? Like I said in the opening, keep the stuff that means something. And then, what do I do with it all? There are people out there who don't have anything, who need what you don't want. Living on nothing, living in cars, living, what do they call it, couch surfing? Living from house to house, teenagers, it's amazing. So anything you don't want, don't throw it in the trash. Please don't get a big dumpster and have them call Habitat or call a company to come pick your stuff up. Please don't fill up the landfills with stuff that someone needs that you don't want. And sometimes that's the biggest thing. I want my stuff to go to a good home. Do a little research and find places that'll take it. And then no one in my family wants it. Right? Again, it's that burden. But I always say this, if there's things that you want a particular person to have, I had this conversation with my mom for a year before she passed away. Oh, you'll know that I want that to go to Jillian, or I want this. No, Mom, I'm going to be grieving. I'm not going to remember. Write a little note. Give it to them now. Tell them why you want that person to have that something, that piece of art, or that piece of clothing, that scarf. It might be ripped and torn. I have a chipped mug that my grandmother gave me. I guess I made it for her or bought it for her, probably with my mom's money, but she wanted me to have it. Guess what? I keep it. I don't use it because I'm afraid I'm going to chip my, gum, but I kept it because it reminds me of my mom. And I'm sorry I took my fancy shoes off. I got my flip-flops on already. Okay. Anybody relate? Chaos. Yeah. And the house, right? Where do you start? But the chaos is just too much. Right? If you're thriving, if you're constantly looking around, or if you want to thrive and you're constantly looking around at all this stuff and all this stuff you have to do and it's just too much. Right? It's too crowded. And that's our brain too. That's not even just stuff. That's just the thoughts around your stuff. Or around not feeling well, or this friend is sick, or my son is sick, or somebody's, all that. It's just all this stuff in our head. And then what about the mental roadblocks? What do we tell ourselves, right? I love this quote. It's on the front of my book. Life is a balance of holding on and letting go. Life is a balance of, like today. What session am I going to go to? Well, I don't know. Should I do that one first? Should I do this one first? I don't know. It's a balance of holding on and letting go. And then who has other people's stuff in their house? Kids, grandmas. Oh, it's free. We'll take it. My parents. We'll find a use for that ratty old couch. There's no room in the living room for another couch, Dad. But he grew up with nothing. So we took everything in. There's this, I do a lot of research, obviously, in the senior community, and there's a couple theories on why older people, 16 plus, I'm 57, so believe me, I get this, is that it's the, the depression. Well, I didn't grow up in the Depression. My grandparents did. But what they did was their stuff was their legacy. Right? Especially in a not rich, not poor, Italian and Polish. I'm Italian and Polish families, right? You passed stuff down because they didn't have any money to pass down, right? And it's also, if we can fix it, if we can use it, if we can work it, let's take it in, right? You can't fit it. You can't walk around your house, but you've got a lot of stuff, right? Because you don't want to see it go to waste. And that's okay. But it's, when does it stop? When do you thrive? And when are you just kind of surviving in the stuff? And then I love that, you're just stuck. Again, it's the where do you start? So there's a couple magnets left, but, oh, the stuff about, that's me. Stuff about your stuff is not about your stuff. But this next slide, you can download it on my website, so don't worry about, not having it, but I'll let you all see it. I do have a couple magnets left, but you can always download it. So the name of my company used to be Leave It to Lisa, and now it's the Organizing Mentors. But when I saw that, so long story short, I have ADD. I found out when I was 40 that I had ADD. And the way I remember things is with acronyms. Love acronyms. So LITL, Leave It to Lisa, I created the little system. And because at the beginning I was like, I want to just relieve a little stress. Have our clients release a little stuff. Feel a little lighter, feel a little better. And then when I started teaching and telling people what I did, created the little system. And the first L, this is what you're all going to do as homework. Anytime in the next week, okay? You're going to go into one drawer, one closet, one space, and you're going to get rid of, release. First you're going to find where it's going to go. Habitat for Humanity, Salvation Army, Good Shepherd, your church, wherever. And you're going to look in that drawer and you're going to say, what are the things I know I don't want? Even if right now you can imagine some place in your house, your closet, I'm sure you can think of at least 3 things that, yeah, I really don't need that. Someone else could use that. And that's what you're going to do in every little spot in your house. This is the system we use in every job we work. Whether we're organizing the space, packing for a move, someone passed away, let it go, the first step. What are the things I know I don't want? If there's something you're not sure of, don't think about that yet, because that's where we get stuck, right? Wow, these pictures, and then all of a sudden you're opening an album and it's 3 hours later and you're like, oh, I'm tired now, I'm not doing the rest of it. Start with let it go, the stuff you know you don't want. It's easy. It should be a quick decision. And if you make a mistake, that's okay, it's still there. But it's that initial decision. And then the I is the intentional. That's like, oh, I don't know if will someone want this? Or how about, oh, I spent so much money on that dress, or I never wore that, or hey, I'm going to fit in that dress again, or I'm going to go to that restaurant, I'm going to do that. I know, hey, I'm right there. I got it too. I'm a little smarter about my stuff now, but yeah, so paid a lot of money, didn't wear it, I'm going to get back to that size. Well, if you want to keep 1 or 2 of those, it's fine. But again, don't get caught up on the intentional in that first step. Intentional is, got to think about it. What is it? That's where you ask the questions, why I'm holding on to something. That's the intentional. Or you talk to your husband, or you talk to your friend or your spouse or somebody and say, look, I just want to talk this out. I don't know why I want it. What is it? Sometimes you'll be surprised, and there's stories all about this in my book about why you're holding on to it. I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I met a woman who was holding on to Sports Illustrated magazines. She knew it was her brother's subscription. She never ended it. He was tragically murdered, and she was holding on to it. And I was sitting with her, and the funny thing is, he was really bad at sports. He just lived vicariously through the magazines and watching sports. And so I do this trick, and you can use this. When you have a big stack of stuff, flip it over. And look at that bottom piece. It's usually the oldest. And you can kind of say, oh, that's the easiest sometimes to throw away. And the first copy that she ever got was the year and month that he passed away. Right? And after some tears, we were both bawling, and I get goosebumps every time I tell this story, but she realized then why. So I always suggest, the person is in charge, right, of what you want to keep. How about just keeping that first issue, right? And bring those, she brought all the magazines, I think, to the school or one of his, camps or something like that, but she was able to cancel the subscription and keep that first one, because that's why she kept it. But keeping that stuff wasn't bringing her brother back. And every time she saw it, she was reminded that, God, my brother's dead. Ugh, who wants to go? Who wants to see that? But we don't realize why we hold on to something. You know, it turned out to be positive after a negative, you know? And then the T is transformed. Guess what? You've gotten rid of some stuff. You released it from your energy, from your zone, from that mental clutter. Your space is transformed. You're transformed. I was speaking to someone earlier, and she said, I can't get rid of anything. And I can't tell you how many conversations, that first consultation call, I want everything in my house. In our first session, I drive away with a minivan full of stuff. Because, you know, you think, no, I want everything. That's why it's in my house. You wouldn't have called me if you thought that, you know, because you want to discuss these things. And then love it and live it. You love the space you're in. You love the stuff that's left in your space, right? And you're living in a cleaner environment, not necessarily cleaner, spick-span cleaner. It's just cleaner for you. And yes, sometimes it is a little bit better for your health if you don't have stacks of newspapers and things with dust, collecting dust. I moved a gentleman, 86-year-old gentleman the other day, and lived in his house 27 years with his wife. His wife passed away a couple years ago. And in their bathroom, they had a shelf above the tub. It was beautiful, and she had dried flowers up there. I took the flowers down, you guys. I was covered with dust, like 27 years of dust. I couldn't breathe. I had to go out. I was, not to be gross, but I was blowing my nose, and it was brown. And he's like, what was that from? And I said, all those things. And he's breathing that in all day for 27 years. You know, you got to think, and who wants to go up there and dust those things? Nobody, right? I don't. So that's my book. That's my stuff. I put this on there. And then I gave you a card doing a special. If anybody wants some help, I also have a sign up over there for 3 hours. You might win. I know there's a lot of people here, but you might win. But if you want me to come out, I'm doing a special just for you guys till the end of the year, but I extended it till the end of January because holidays are just crazy. But I wanted to get through that really quickly. What time do I have until?
I was just looking at that. So the next breakout session starts at 11:25.
Oh, perfect.
It's 11:10 right now.
So we got about 10 minutes to ask some questions.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want to leave early because you go a little slower, that's okay. All my information is on there. You can grab a card, but I think it's also on here too. So, and if you didn't get one of these, you know what, I'll leave these over here too. So, anybody have any questions? Personal or not so? Nobody? Okay.
So I have a lot of stuff in my garage.
Yeah.
And I might need
Here, I'll do this.
for a future repair.
Yes. There's a whole chapter in my book about that. It's called
But what
the
killed me
someday syndrome.
this past weekend, I used 2 of those things
Okay.
after 10 years.
Okay.
How do I sort that out? I got 1,000 things.
Yeah.
Every 10 years I use 2 of them.
Sure. So he said he's got a garage full of stuff. Every 10 years he used 2 things, and the other day he just used 2 things. So here's my suggestion. Not everybody has a lot of money to repurchase things, right? But if it's taking up a lot of space in your garage, mentally and physically, right? And there's stuff in there you know you don't want, right? That first, let it go. Probably.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, probably. But there's stuff that maybe you can borrow from a friend, cost $5 to rebuy if in 2 more years you need it. You know, and I'm not assuming, you know, we're made of money and we're just going to go buy a new snowblower because we want to get our car and we can't get the snowblower, right? Not that. But if it's not going to cost too much, or you can borrow it or rent it, there's a lot of places now that rent some bigger equipment, but like hammers, things like that, that's easy to just store. So my thought is, think about, so the someday syndrome is someday I'm gonna use it, someday it's gonna be worth money, someday it'll fit, someday, you know, name all, when you start saying
Save me a
someday,
trip to the store.
save you a trip to the store, so I might keep it. My dad was Mr. Someday, right? After he passed, we found, like, that's another seminar. But I learned this through them, right? Someday we got to keep it, right? So I guess my suggestion is to do the let it go, right? That step. And if there's something that, I might need it, keep it. Because that first step, I guarantee you're going to get rid of at least 30 to 50% of what is in that space. Guaranteed. I've been doing this 15 years. And sometimes it's more, especially if it's just a whole bunch of stuff. Like you've just moved from somewhere and it's just still in the garage, or it's all the kids' stuff, right? Someday the kids will take it. Someday I'll give it to the kids, right? And we keep things for them because they don't have space. 20, 30-year-olds, they don't want it, right? So, but I don't have rules for my business. Like, you haven't worn it in 2 years, you haven't worn it in a year, we went through COVID. I didn't wear a dress for 2 years because I didn't have to. I got dressed, right, Steve? We got dressed from here up and got on a Zoom call, right? I got rid of all my high heels. Like, I've always hated these. These are horrible, right? Steve, I already put my flip-flops on, and those weren't even high. Let's be comfortable, right? We're thriving. But get rid of it in a year or 2 years. I haven't worn my big, heavy winter coat. I lived in Chicago for years. We had layers and layers and layers. Am I going to get rid of my winter coat because I haven't worn it here in Virginia? No, this winter is supposed to be pretty bad, so I'm glad I have my winter coat, my heavy winter coat. But I don't need 5 winter coats, because I know somebody needs 2 or 3 or 4 of those, right? So I don't know if I answered it, but I say go through the little system, and if it's initial, I know I don't need it, and then see what's left. And sometimes you go through the let it go again after the first one, okay? Somebody, yeah?
I have Sunday stuff really bad.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm that
Okay.
was started by my grandfather in the 1850s.
Oh, wow. You grew up on a farm with his grandfather started in the 1850s.
And so we had a barn, we had a work shed, we had attics.
Mm-hmm. You kept everything.
Yeah, you always did. It was the first place you shopped.
Right. In your own house. You shop in your own house.
And the nearest hardware store was 25
Oh,
miles away.
wow.
So the first thing you do, you took out some screws and they were still good.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. How many people have secrets full of screws and pins and safety pin? Remember the secret kit? I still have a couple in my mom.
So it's really hard to...
It is. And then that's legacy. That's from, 1850 worth of stuff. Like, somebody needs that.
Luckily, I don't live there anymore.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, but someday people hold on to that stuff. And I've I've removed things from people's home and given them to, like, libraries. And a lot of the places in Virginia want those things, the battlefield and the histories. And
And then the Depression came along, and my parents grew up in the Depression. And they didn't throw anything.
No, they didn't throw anything. No, we keep everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's a struggle, especially at this age. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. We'll come back.
You mentioned a client that requested your input, but initially said that I want a weakness in my house. So how did you transition from that point to driving away with it?
So her question is very legitimate. My client, and this happens once a month. I want everything in my house, and everything's important to me. Well, first of all, I ask, well, then why do you need my help? Why did you call me? And sometimes it's, well, my kids think I have too much stuff, or I have to move into a senior community, I can't take it all, or I'm moving into their house, something like that. And I'll say, okay, well, let's just open a closet, open a cupboard. Let's just see. And if you want everything, I always say, if you want anything, then we'll pack it up for your move. It's going to cost you a lot more money to move if you take all of this, right? Because it's by weight. Not 100% of the time they can find a lot of stuff out of that drawer. So I'm not going to push them, because if they want to keep everything, I've said this a million times, if you want to keep everything, then go pack it up. Let's just figure out what you have first. Yeah. But if you're trying to do it for your family, it's very difficult. No, it is. And I've done it with my sister-in-law and all that. Well, let's just open the closet. No, I wear everything in it. Oh, you do? When was the last time you wore these, leggings that are on the ground that are full of moth holes? Oh, no, no. Or I can clean that one. That one there, yeah. So you just ask. And then listen. So I'll tell you a really quick story and then I'll get to you. So here's a family story. My mother passed away, when was it, 2014. And we were going through her closet. My dad died in 2009. My mom loved holidays. Valentine's, biggest one. She had 4 or 5 pink sweatshirts. And I said, Mom, why do you have so many sweatshirts? Well, I love Valentine's. I'm like, it's one day. And I didn't say it like, well, maybe I did kind of say it like this. Mom, it's one day. Why do you need 4 sweatshirts? That's probably exactly how I said it. She said, I don't know, I just like that one. I was like, I took one out. Had a stain on it, coffee stain or something. It was a little kind of ratty. I was like, Mom, what about this one? Come on, it's got a stain. It looks like you've tried to clean it. My little Polish mother said, well, that's the one you bought me when we were downtown Chicago and you took me to breakfast and lunch. And I was like, she had that memory. I didn't. Look, I always get goosebumps. I don't know what it is because Mom's like standing over me, see? But that was important to her. She didn't care if it had a stain. She remembered the day her daughter and she were out hanging out. So I put it back. How about this one, Mom? Oh yeah, I don't like that one. Got rid of it. Okay, thank you. One more question, real quick.
Where do you go to get the resources to find out how to donate your stuff? I'm beyond the point.
Okay.
Want to make money on it.
Yeah.
That doesn't end up here.
In the landfills or something. Okay, good question. Where do you go to donate your stuff? Where do you find those places? Habitat for Humanity is one of my favorites. They only take us certain things. They don't take clothing, things like that. The money in their stores goes back to make houses for people who don't have houses. I work with a nonprofit called Women Giving Back, who gives clothing, things, all that stuff for free to people. I'll be totally honest, my least favorites are Salvation Army and Goodwill. This much money goes back to the people it helps. It's getting the owners and whatever people rich. Last case, if it's on our way home and we do it, then I will do that. Good Shepherd's great. Find places in your community. You can even Google places. Yeah. Women's shelters, yeah, it depends. Loudoun County has a lot of, Fairfax County has shelters. Yes. Antiques nobody wants. Donate them. Habitat for Humanity, yeah, they will. They will, if they're in good condition. Thank you so much for coming. If you need one of the flyers, they're right here.